Okay, I think we can start. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining today's event. So it's great to see so many of you here with us today who are interested in our online part-time blended MA in Educational Leadership in Practice, a course which aims to provide you as prospective students with the theory, skills and confidence to engage at a higher level and influence change within your educational settings. So it's quite an exciting time today, because I'm joined by our new course director, Dr. Paul Armstrong, and our new deputy course director, Dr. Stephen Rayner, who are going to talk you through today's content. So without further ado, I am going to kind of introduce myself and then hand it over to our new academic team. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Daisy James, and I am the course advisor for our MA in Educational Leadership in Practice course. What that means is I am your support from this point onwards. So I am here to support you in your decision-making journey and through the application process to hopefully be successful in enrolling in the MA in Educational Leadership in Practice course here at the University of Manchester. Before I hand you over to Paul, I do want to just mention to those of you who are listening to this live, please do engage with us and interact with us. Please let us know where you're listening in from, and let us know a little bit about your background so we can kind of gain a better understanding into who you are as our prospective students. So, Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you to just welcome everyone today and to say hello.
Thanks, Daisy, for that introduction. Welcome, everybody. Good to see some of you here online, and thank you for joining us today. As Daisy said, I've just recently taken over the directorship of the Educational Leadership in Practice programme, and it's a great pleasure to do that. I have been working as the Deputy Programme Director for the last couple of years. In fact, during the whole lifetime of the project, it's quite a new project. We're only a couple of years old. And I'm joined also by my colleague, Dr. Stephen Rayner, who has also been involved with the programme since its inception a couple of years ago. So you're in good hands, safe hands, experienced hands, I suppose, is my first thing to say in respect of this programme. A little bit about myself first before I give Stephen the chance to introduce himself. So I've been working in the field of educational leadership and management in academia for over 16 years now, a combination of teaching and research and writing within this area of the field. Okay, and I do spend a lot of my time in schools working with teachers, leaders, practitioners, pupils and members of the community, particularly around Greater Manchester, but also abroad as well. I've done a lot of work internationally. So that's the first thing for you to know about me. I am not the sort of academic that never visits schools or never gets his hands dirty, as it were. Okay, so I like to think I've got some sense of what's going on within the school system, and certainly I think that's very important on a programme like this. As my slide there says, I'm a senior lecturer in education here at the University of Manchester. I've got a number of research interests, that are situated very much around educational leadership and management. I'm particularly interested in the ways in which schools are managed and resourced organisationally, and I've written a lot about that over the last sort of 10 years. And I'm also interested in how collaboration between schools and those that work within them can facilitate professional development, and certainly professional development is something that is a theme that runs very closely to this particular programme. Okay, Stephen, over to you to introduce yourself.
Many thanks, Paul. It's great to see colleagues here. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining this information session, whether you're doing so in person or online. Paul and I work as a team on several projects, actually. We teach together, we share the teaching on one or two other programs, and we also research together. So we're in different parts of the university today in different rooms, but we're both part of the team in the Manchester Institute of Education. I don't have such a long record of research and publication as Paul does. I've joined the university and joined higher education rather more recently, about 5 years ago. But as you see there, the compensation for that is that my background is teaching in schools and leadership roles in schools. So that has been a substantial part of my career, and I've been a teacher, school leader. I've been a voluntary school governor and I've worked for local authorities, the equivalent of school boards in some parts of the world, and I've worked independently. So it's a very close affinity with schools. And I teach on education leadership programs, lecture on those, and also programs from the teacher education field. I've recently become deputy course director about 4 weeks ago. But like Paul, I've been involved in education leadership in practice in this program right from the start, right from the drawing board. And one of the things that we'll point out as we go through this session is that MA Educational Leadership in Practice is not a sort of adapted form of existing course units. It's not a collection of course units that we've put together to form a new program. These are new course units, particularly and specially written for this program, and written for those who are in practice in education leadership, as the title suggests. And so that focus, and I'll continue with this one, Paul, that focus is central to the program. And the courses on which Paul and I teach and have taught are predominantly for those who are studying part-time alongside demanding professional jobs. We are very aware of the demands on the time of those who take part in the program. So be assured that if you are a practicing education professional, then this course might well be the right course for you. Paul, would you like to pick up from here?
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, thank you for that. That's really helpful, and I think that offers a really sort of good sort of overview and an initial sort of detail of what the program's about. I mean, I won't read from the slide here, but clearly, as Stephen said, because of that flexibility that we want to employ to allow the professionals who are typically make up the student cohort on this program, and certainly what the program was designed for. That's the reason why it's a blended learning course. So we've got a real combination of different ways of teaching and providing you with ways in which you can engage with learning materials and the resources and the research that we ourselves conduct and undertake in our day-to-day work. So a combination of online interactive study, face-to-face workshops, tutorials, and you know, individual discussions as well that we also facilitate with students at various points on the program. It's a very flexible program. I think that's just something to really emphasize at this point. And also, it's underpinned by the research within the field of educational leadership that emanates from the Manchester Institute of Education and further afield as well. And we've got a range of, I would say, world-leading academics that contribute to the program there. So a little bit about the structure of the program, and I think this is really important information. It's really helpful. It's very practical information, but it's certainly information that you'll want to take on board if you are considering this program. So the first semester you can expect to do and to engage in 2 course units. The first one, Models of Educational Leadership, which is just that. It's an introductory unit that will take you through the various, and there are many, different ways of thinking about and conceptualizing and understanding what educational leadership is, how it's understood and how it's practiced and by whom and why, and crucially, how to develop a critical perspective on those different ways of thinking about it. Okay, and you'll probably find lots of links and connections in there with your own leadership style, or certainly the sort of style that you think you might employ. That's then followed by another core unit, engaging with educational research into school leadership specifically. And that unit sort of builds on the first one and takes you through some of the seminal research that's been undertaken within educational leadership over the last sort of 20, 30 years and beyond. And again, much of that research, certainly a lot of it, has been undertaken by colleagues within the University of Manchester or who are part of our research network. So, we know what we're talking about, and you'll be taught and have a chance to engage with the academics that write the papers and write the books about this sort of thing. Okay, so again, that's important to to emphasise. In the next semester, we have another core unit that's leading educational change and development, and I think this is when the course units start to become a little bit more applied, if you like. Certainly in this unit, which I lead, we talk about particular change initiatives and how change in education, and of course change is something that we all encounter and are involved with or lead on, or is forced upon us in some cases at any point in our professional lives. I talk there about how leadership and change are interconnected and very much two sides of the same coin, if you like. So that's another core unit, and that's followed by educational leadership policy, where we start to talk more about different policies, be that at the school level or the system level or even the international level, and how educational leadership policy is formed, how it's designed, how it's enacted, and the sort of impact and influence that has on those that are working within schools. And at every point in each semester, there'll be 3 days of face-to-face teaching and workshops, which we can talk about shortly. I think there'll be a slide on that anyway. So yeah, next slide, please, Daisy. Stephen, do you want to talk about these? Because I know you are closely involved with this next course unit.
Thank you. And as we mentioned on an earlier slide, Paul and I are responsible overall for the programme, and we lead some of the course units, but we don't lead all of the course units and we don't do all of the teaching, because Manchester Institute of Education has many experts in educational leadership. It has nationally known scholars on various aspects of educational leadership. And some of those experts relate particularly to teachers and schools. But adding to the reply that Daisy has given to one of your questions, yes, this course covers educational leadership from, we could say, kindergarten to university, if you like. So it can be shaped according to your own professional context. We currently have students who are in about probably 12 different countries, Asia, Europe, Middle East, South America in particular, and we have participants, we have current students who are managers of early years provision and who are academics in universities. It's right through from the whole range of educational contexts. Education leadership as a social practice, that's a course unit that I lead, and that is one of the 5 core units, and then they are followed in the final semester by a choice of 2, currently a choice of 2 optional units, and you can see which those are: international school leadership and digital media and information literacy, and those have proved to be roughly equal in popularity among our current students. Each unit is, as Paul mentioned, lasts about 10 weeks. We don't have a model of where you have to attend a teaching session for 2 hours every week on an evening or something like that. It's some intensive face-to-face teaching. Face-to-face teaching is still our intention with this, although of course we have current adaptations because of the need for some online teaching to take place, and then tutorial support from one of your lecturers, and they each lead to an assignment. And then when we get to the end of what is referred to as the taught programme, which is 6 units worth 20 credits each, we then move on to the research phase, which you can see on this slide in semester 4. And yes, it is 4 semesters. It is 2 years. It's a 2-year programme. And so the final part of your studies would be the project, the inquiry, which for most students will be conducted in their own institution or in the institutions with which they work. And in preparation for that project, we have a suite of research skills units to prepare for that and to go through methods, methodologies, ethics, and so on. Paul?
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, so we've touched briefly on the workshops. They're held twice a year at conferences, which we run out of our centres across different parts of the world. So we'll host them in Manchester, in Dubai, in Shanghai, and also in Singapore and Hong Kong, which is a joint centre at the moment. So whichever part of the world you are thinking of attending from, and if it's probably from the Manchester cohort, then we will hold 2 face-to-face workshop conferences in Manchester every year, and they are 3 days long currently. Okay, as Stephen said, 620 credit modules. They're very much tailored around that flexibility again, as I said before, so you can work while you study, continue with your professional role while you study, and access the learning materials as and when is necessary to fit around your undoubtedly busy lives. You can typically expect to spend around 15 hours of study per week. Okay, there are no examinations on this program. It's all about practical and reflective assessments, combining theory and practice and research, and certainly making sure that we link everything that we introduce you to and share with you in terms of that knowledge with your own practice and your own context. Okay, allowing you to build up a portfolio of different reflective pieces that hopefully will certainly be beneficial for the program and part of the assessment, but hopefully will serve a professional purpose for you as well in terms of your own development in your leadership or educational professional role. Okay, so yeah, 2-year part-time course, as Stephen said, and it's flexible to fit around you and your individual circumstances.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Stephen. So I just want to talk a little bit before we finish today about our current students, and it's quite exciting again because our first cohort of students who joined us in Manchester back in 2019 will actually be graduating in July this year. Obviously, it's been delayed because of the pandemic, but it's really exciting time for us to see our first ever cohort of students kind of finish their studies, and we're really looking forward to kind of following their journey post MA in Education, Leadership and Practice. So you're probably thinking about kind of who are our students, and do you fit into kind of what we're looking for as new students coming through. So we've got a really diverse range of students on the course, as Stephen said, from various different backgrounds based across the globe, people working in early years through to secondary education, right through to higher education. We've got people who are looking to move into a leadership role within their educational organisation. We've got people who are looking obviously to progress within their current careers, or perhaps looking to change career completely. All of our students, I would say, are looking to build their network of global educators through the blended workshops. The blended workshops, so that face-to-face interaction, are an integral part of this degree programme. They allow our students to start building lasting and long-term relationships with each other. One thing I would say is obviously you're going to learn from a fantastic academic team, Paul and Stephen in leading on that, but you'll also be learning from one another. And that's the feedback we've had from our current students, is that they've built these relationships and they've learned from people based in China, based in the Middle East, based in Europe, based in the UK. So you'll be mixing with people with very similar passions and kind of interests to yourself, but from very different backgrounds and geographical locations. I've put this quote from one of our, I'd like to call him the golden boy, really, Martin. He's fantastic. He's going to be graduating in July here in Manchester. He has said about the conference, obviously, which is held twice a year, it's given him the opportunity to meet with our lecturers, but also network with other professionals. It's offered him opportunities to discuss different leadership discourses from across the world, which has ultimately contributed to his development to grow as a leader within education. I'm very much looking forward to see what Martin does next. He got deputy headship at his school whilst on this course. So you don't need to wait till after you graduate to kind of make that real impact. And we're really looking forward to seeing what he does next, really. So if you're sat there thinking, I'm not sure whether this course is for me, or you're thinking it is for me, but I want to know more, this is when my role comes into play. So please share your CV with me for an initial review. I can review your kind of background, academic, professional, and arrange an individual consultation with you via Zoom, Teams, or by telephone. This allows me to kind of get a deeper understanding into who you are as an individual and kind of guide you through the next steps. So I'll make sure your application is strong enough to be successful. And I'll also kind of answer any questions that you have specifically about your background and kind of your own circumstances. Now, Paul mentioned that we have different international centres where we kind of launch this course out of, essentially. So we've got Manchester, Shanghai, Dubai, and Hong Kong, Singapore. If, for example, you get in touch with me and I see that you're based in a region closer to one of our international centres, I'll put you in touch with our international recruitment team leads over there, and they can kind of essentially support you in the process from that region. Now, Paul, Stephen, I don't know if you wanted to kind of finish off by saying any thoughts before we wrap up.
Nothing much more to add, really, Daisy. I think we've covered up most of the bases. Hopefully that's provided our attendees and those that will be watching this hopefully online at a later date with enough information to make an informed decision as to whether this programme is for them. I mean, the one final point I would say, and I'll give Stephen a chance to mention something quickly as well if he wants to, is that just to reiterate the point there, that this programme is very much research informed, okay? It's very much research led. So it's led by, it's been designed by, and it's certainly it's taught by educational leadership researchers. Okay, so we're engaged in sort of cutting edge contemporary research within the field, and so I think that's something important to emphasise. I think that does lend the programme an air of distinctiveness, and certainly something to bear in mind when you're thinking about whether this is the right programme for you.
Exactly, Paul. And our aim is not to train professionals to become leaders of schools or universities. That's not the purpose of this. There are plenty of providers of training courses and training programs for head teachers. They are to train, they are to develop understanding of leadership in all its forms and in all its guises and contexts. We had a great quote from one of our current students, which Daisy might put on a slide for a future presentation, where this participant said that the ELIP program has not taught me how to be a leader, but it has taught me about what sort of leader I want to be. And I think that really sums up what we hope that you would gain from this program.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. I'll definitely get that quote from you, Stephen, to add it into my next presentation. Just very quickly before we wrap up, Paul, Stephen, are you able to elaborate on the research project just a little bit for one of our audience members?
I am the course unit leader for the research project. So I think one of the things that people quite like to know right from the start is how many words do I have to write? And it's 6,000, okay? So it's a 6,000 word project. Some master's programs end with a dissertation. We don't use the term dissertation. We're slightly different. And so the research skills elements are part of this final research stage. But the research project consists of two parts. You write a sort of academic essay of 5,000 words, and you do a presentation for a professional audience, which requires you to write in a rather different sort of language, because you have a different target readership and audience for your work. And the project, building on the skills that you've developed in the research skills units, would be conducted as an investigation in your own organization. For example, a school-based one that is currently going on. Our school has recently introduced a new policy, primary school, developing children's reading in English. It's been introduced as a leadership initiative, and we want to evaluate that and see how that is going within the school. And this student's research is to investigate that by talking to the teachers who've been providing that new program for their children, for their school pupils in the primary school. There is a great deal of choice, individual choice. You have a supervisor who works with you and supports you through that project. I hope that's enough to keep it as brief as I can, Daisy.
That's brilliant, Stephen. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone listening today. Just want to reiterate that I am on hand from this point onwards to support you in getting an application across the line, and it will be successful, I'm sure. So please do get in touch with me, share your CV with myself. I'll review that and we can kind of have a consultation to walk through next steps. Paul, Stephen, it's great to kind of have you on today's session.
Thank you, Daisy.
And I look forward to kind of getting in touch with you guys as prospective students and supporting you through the next steps.
Thank you, Daisy, and thank you for everyone for your attendance today.
Bye.
Goodbye.